Formula One drivers urged to speak up for human rights in Bahrain. Formula One drivers urged to speak up for human rights in Bahrain. Welcome to the English Language Learning Podcast. That was our headline, our title for today. Você pode encontrar o conteúdo, a leitura, na descrição para todos os vídeos no canal de YouTube. You can find all of the reading content, all of the readings, the leituras, in the description section for each video on YouTube. Formula One drivers urged to speak up for human rights in Bahrain. Lewis Hamilton and other F1 drivers are called upon by rights groups to speak up against human rights abuses in Bahrain. In a letter addressed to Hamilton and other F1 drivers ahead or before the Bahrain Grand Prix, the European Center for Democracy and Human Rights sought their help in raising awareness about prominent human rights defender Abdulhadi al-Khawaja, who was sentenced to life in prison for what? For participating in 2011 anti-government protests in Bahrain. The letter refers to a recent altercation between the Motorsport Racing Federation, the FIA, and its drivers after it updated its rules to prevent political, religious, or personal remarks or comments from being made without prior approval. That is all we will read from the Al Jazeera article. The article is from, we got a date here, 1st of March 2023. I don't see a writer's name. No, I don't see an author's name. So that's from Al Jazeera. The article mentions that the FIA, the Motorsport Racing Federation, received backlash from the drivers, particularly Hamilton. Backlash would be big negative public reaction from a group. And in this case, it's the drivers. And they are having a backlash against the new rules. Hey, no political comments, no religious comments, no personal comments, unless you get approval, unless you ask permission. That is the new direction for the FIA. And the FIA is not only for F1, it's for all international motorsports. So this is a reaction from one audience of the FIA. Hamilton also, the article says Hamilton also promised or vowed to keep talking about issues and topics that he's passionate about. And here are his words. I think we've come a long way. I think we've seen great progress. But there's more to do, and we're still going to places where there are still issues. And I know there is work being done in those places too. And these things can take time. Those were some of his comments. So, again, you can find the reading, the leitura, in the description on the YouTube, on the canal de YouTube. Coming up next, all things English. From the article, we look at vocabulary, we look at grammar, pronunciation, whatever, all of it. All things English coming up next. Formula One drivers urged to speak up for human rights in Bahrain. From the headline, to speak up. To speak up. To speak up is to use your voice publicly. To give a critical opinion about someone. Falar sobre um problema abertamente. This is similar to speak out. Speak up could just be volume, right? Excuse me, I didn't hear you. Could you speak up? That's one version of speak up. More practical version, not a, hey, give a public criticism or give a public comment. Speak out is exclusively when you are giving criticism. and you are openly critiquing someone. To be called upon. You might, I don't know if you use this language in Portuguese, this kind of passive language. Lewis Hamilton and other F1 drivers are called upon by human rights groups to speak up against human rights abuses. To be called upon is to be addressed, to be identified and specifically talked to. So we can change this and we can say Lewis Hamilton and other F1 drivers were specifically instructed by a rights group or rights groups, because it's not just one group, but to be called upon to do something is to get to be chosen, to be selected, ser escolhido, chamada, seleccionado, to raise awareness. This is in the second paragraph. In a letter addressed or directed at Hamilton and other F1 drivers, the European Democracy Human Rights Group, looking for their help in raising awareness about prominent human rights defender Abdulhadi al-Khawaja. To raise awareness. To raise would be levantar, aumentar. Awareness would be, this is a hard word for me in Portuguese, conscientização, conhecimento, right? Knowledge, awareness, knowledge, what people know versus what they don't know. To be in the light versus in the dark about information. So the group is telling them, hey, please tell more people, talk, post, make videos, wear stickers on your car, on your helmet, make comments, say things, raise awareness, help more people find out or discover. Prior, this is when they're mentioning the specific rules, the new rules, right? The new direction, the new directive from the FIA. And the rules prevent political, religious, or personal comments from being made without prior approval. Aprovação prévia. Anterior. So basically, you have to get prior permission. You have to get aprovação prévia. And then you can make a comment about religion, or it doesn't say specifically what types of comment. It just says political, religious, or personal remarks. So maybe you can't say, thank you, God, for the good weather. Obrigado, Deus, pela clima hoje. No. Tem que ter aprovação prévia. I imagine they're not going to enforce or fiscalizar the new rules like that, but obviously that's a big problem, that they're going to have to choose what types of comments, when and where they're going to punish or penalize or create consequences for drivers. Backlash. I mentioned backlash. We did not read these sections. Backlash, immediate backlash. It's a strong negative reaction. Reação, criticar, negativo. And to vow, V-O-W. When you get married, you have to write your wedding vows, your promises. So to vow is to promise. That is all. There's nothing else I will review. We did all the English things, and now questions and conversation coming up in the final segment of the English Language Learning Podcast. Formula One drivers urged, implorado. Formula One drivers urged to speak up for human rights in Bahrain. We talked about the rule change. There's a new rule. From who? From the International Racing Federation, the FIA. What is the new rule? No political comments, no religious comments, no personal comments without aprovação prévia, without prior approval. And what did Hamilton say? Well, we've made progress, but there's more to do. If I'm passionate, I'll speak. That's basically what he said there. We have questions and conversation. Do athletes usually speak up about social or political issues in Brazil? Se os atletas normalmente falam de coisas sociais e politicais e assuntos assim no Brasil? Do you get the Mike Tyson comments in Brazil from Jose Aldo, who doesn't even live in Brazil? I think he lives in the USA. I remember during the election, Neymar, woof, some dumb comments about the election. Ronaldo Phenomenal, I think there was some comments too. I mean, there were some other players. Richarlison talked about, I think, some social issues. I don't remember if he specifically mentioned politicians, but he definitely talks about social issues. In the United States, LeBron James has talked about China on Twitter. What else do we have? We have Muhammad Ali, right? Let's go back farther to the real legends. Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, Boston Celtics. These guys were Jackie Robinson, LA Dodgers. These guys were talking about political causes while playing in places where the things they were saying were the most unpopular things you could say. Not just unpopular, but dangerous. Like you could be killed if you were just a normal black man, not Bill Russell, who played on the Boston Celtics, or Muhammad Ali, a legendary, in the time, a legendary fighter already, who Muhammad Ali had to leave his boxing career in his prime because the USA government said you cannot fight because you're not going to Vietnam. You're refusing to go. So you're punished. You're speaking out. You're punished. Don't do it. Don't speak out. So we have a history of this in the United States. LeBron James also got on stage on the campaign trail, I think, with Hillary Clinton. Michael Jordan now famously, infamously maybe, has avoided all of these conversations because he does not speak out publicly. The greatest of all time does not speak out. Stephen Curry speaks out about some issues, not so much political races, but races. He speaks out about social issues. And we get people who I know there's a fighter in the UFC, Jorge Masvidal, has said many things this in the same category as Trump about elections and fraud. There's another guy in the UFC now, Colby Covington, who also is I don't know if he's just doing the acting, but he seems to also be taking the red, white, and blue, wave a flag, sing the national anthem, don't be gay, don't be brown kind of messages. Election was a fraud. So athletes do this all the time, but in Brazil, do they do it traditionally? Do they do it frequently? How do they do it? Is it on videos? Is it on private conversations? Is it on podcasts with other people? Do they have their own podcasts? How do these people do it? Hamilton does it by speaking and physically wearing clothes with messages, and then speaking in interviews. Draymond Green, Golden State Warriors, talks about things in his podcast. LeBron James is like the president. He could say something, alone in his room, and it might end up, circulating on social media. So, number 2, do you think sports leagues should have rules about athletes speaking up about social and political issues? Why or why not? Do you think sports leagues should have rules about athletes speaking up about social and political issues? Why or why not? Se você acha as ligas de esportes deveriam ter regras sobre quê? Sobre os atletas falando e criticando coisas sociais e políticas. Por que sim, por que não? I think probably they will. Should they? Well, you have to wear different hats, right? If you're wearing the capitalism hat, you would say probably still yes, actually. You do need some rules because you need some reliability and you don't want many surprises. So you want to be able to punish someone who goes too far while also letting people say things that aren't going too far. Because if you're a sports league, you want to make money. What's a very easy, what not maybe not easy, but a very simple way to make money now? Be controversial. Have people who are trending on social media, on the internet. People who say things publicly about social political issues end up circulating the internet. Donald Trump basically won an election for saying controversial things publicly, and he started trending. So, but speaking from just a fan, yeah, I want to see my athletes as humans. They're not just robots, and I prefer to know, right? I prefer to know who's on my team and what are they like. Um, I like human superstars. I don't like inhuman, unreachable superstars. I like when people um, open up and share some of their normal human lives. Part of being a human is being frustrated with political and social issues. So I think they should have some rules, yeah. And in the U.S., what rules do they have? Usually, American sports leagues have a rule about conduct or comportamento que pode prejudicar, danificar a reputação da liga. So usually, if you say something that in the end, no fim, é impopular, porque a reação do pública, then they can punish you because you've created damage to the league. And they can punish you immediately if they wanted to for saying something. But generally, in the United States, free speech is literal, where you can say anything you want. You just might cost yourself money, which is a very big deal. So, in Brazil, what is the rule of sports leagues? LeBron James one time and some other athletes in the NBA were wearing Black Lives Matter T-shirts after George Floyd was murdered by a police officer. I don't think I've seen that. I know football players sometimes score a goal and take off their shirt, and there might be a message, but I don't remember anything trending the way that the Black Lives Matter T-shirts did. And I know in football they have the "Say No to Racism" campaign in the stadium. So, I mean, they have social messages sponsored, patronizado, I think that's the word, patronized by the sports leagues. In your workplace or in your school, is it common for people to speak up about political, social, or economic issues? Why or why not? So NBA players, NFL players, MLB, MLS, La Liga, Liga Brazil, these are people in their workplace. They're on the field. They're working. This is their workplace. It's different, but it's still work. So the topic of them making political comments is technically in the context of them making social and political comments at work. In front of clients, in front of audiences, in front of bosses, in front of sponsors. Let's do this in Portuguese, no seu trabalho, ou no seu escola, na sua escola. Let me try that again. No seu trabalho, ou na sua escola, é comum pelas pessoas falar ou criticar sobre assuntos econômicos, políticos, sociais, por que sim ou por que não? I am an English teacher. I work alone, so I can basically say whatever I want até agora. There's no repercussion, but What about your workplace? What about your school? Maybe you're young. Maybe you're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20. Do you have these conversations with people at your school? Anything like this? Um, is it common to hear people around you at work or at school talk about some of these things? Do you think sports is better as a tool to unite people, or do you think it's better as an incentive or a spotlight for countries to become more democratic and free in order for them to participate? So let me say that again in English and then in Portuguese. Do you think A, sports is a tool to unite people, and it doesn't matter if you're in communist China, and if you're in Russia, if you're in Europe, in the United States, in Korea, North Korea, and you're in Sudan or anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter what's going on politically. Doesn't matter your political beliefs. We're all humans, and we all need to share space, and we all need to just kind of, you know, just play a game together and watch a game together. Or B, do you think that participation should be the incentive for democratization, right? So if, for example, Ukraine war, Russian athletes, no, you can't play. You can't play in these games with us because you're doing something that breaks the rules, the international rules. You invaded a friendly neighbor, and you're bombing cities. No, you can't play sports with us. You're not allowed. You're not permitted. You want to play again? Get out of Ukraine. You want to play again? Stop torturing Uyghurs. You want to play again? Stop abusing women in your country. You want investment? Well, you need to earn it. Be democratic. And when I say democratic, usually that just means let our businesses come and operate without having massively bad publicity. Uh, so that's what it really means, I think. But what do I think? I don't believe in the, hey, everyone just kumbaya, have a beer, and, it doesn't matter if your country, is invading another country for oil. Yeah, I'm talking about the United States, Iraq, Vietnam, Tuskegee experiments, right? You can't be in the Olympics if you are drugging black communities and lying to them about getting sexually transmitted disease medication, and you're not giving them any medication, and you're just studying how they die. That's wrong. No, so I believe in the second. I believe that sports should be the incentive or the spotlight. Hey, F1 is in Bahrain. Should we be racing there? It's not a friendly country to women. I don't know much about Bahrain, but hey, F1 is planning to go to Russia this year. I think that's a bad idea. They don't deserve entertainment because they're creating death on their peaceful neighbor. So yeah, I think that it should be something that's a tool to, hey, you want to play games, then you got to play nice with everybody else. And I believe that for the United States too. Even for men's basketball, Team USA basketball, if Vietnam happened right now, if the war in Iraq happened right now, I would say, fuck that. We do not deserve to be playing. In Brazil, how do sports collide with political and social issues? No Brasil, como os... I forgot the last question, actually. Se você acha esportes são melhor, ou é melhor, como uma ferramenta para unir e trazer pessoas juntos, ou se você acha melhor como um incentivo, né, pelos países não brigar para ter permissão para participar no mundo de esportes. What do you think? Final question. In Brazil, how do sports collide with politics and social issues. No Brasil, como os esportes coligir com políticas assuntos sociais. In the U.S., let's take an issue, a social issue, proper and economic, political issue, all of them. Pay, remunerações, unionization, people getting fair pay, remunerações justos. In the United States, there is one example of politics and sports colliding in university football, American football, where for a long time we have a large group of African-American black athletes coached by white coaches in universities with white administrators, in states with white politicians, not permitting the black young men from earning money. Eles estavam exclusando eles de ganhar dinheiro em qualquer jeito para fazer aula de inglês online. Não pode, ilegal. Por quê? Porque você está jogando futebol na universidade. Não tem direito de ganhar dinheiro nessas circunstâncias. They don't get paid. It's slowly changing. They still don't get paid by the schools. They get paid by sponsors and rich, interested people. But that is one example, and that is changing the conversation about pay for work and what does it mean to be a worker and to produce value for someone and not get paid for it. Why should that ever be okay? Another example would be the NFL NBA draft. At the beginning of every season, or at the end, I guess, there's a draft. New players join the league. But it's not like your job. You don't get to choose or interview with other companies. You don't get to choose what city you're going to live in. You get selected. Also, another one, sports, politics, social issues, salary caps. In the NFL and the NBA, two majority black African-American leagues for the players, not the owners. Nos donos não, mas os jogadores sim. Why in a capitalistic, hyper-capitalistic country like the United States, why are these rich capitalists, the owners, putting a cap, limite, nos salários dos funcionários deles? Why is there a salary cap? Why is LeBron James not allowed to make the amount of money that he is worth? Porque LeBron James não pode ficar pagado o que qualquer dono deveria pagar. Why do we have a limit in NFL and NBA that, hey, each team can only spend, $1 billion, no more? Pretty socialistic. Why does this matter to Brazil, the topic? Athletes speaking up, leagues making rules. Brazil has many domestic, political, and social human rights conflicts to struggle with. Athletes and their celebrity or popularity can be used to gather support for politicians. Pelo pior, pelo melhor, for the better or for worse. Also, Brazil's football team is an international force of friendliness and normality. I think Brazil's football team shirt may be the most beloved shirt in the world, more than the American flag. I know people hate the American flag, but a lot of people love the American flag. I see that shit everywhere. But I think Brazil's football shirt is even more a symbol of just a smile. They and the rest of FIFA can be used to spotlight or focus international human rights struggles, or passar o pano, or cover up international human rights struggles. But do Brazilians care? Thank you. And that is the English Language Learning Podcast.